Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Dais, a podcast about the stories taking place in and around El Paso County, Colorado. I'm your host, Scott Anderson, and today I am joined by Todd Marts, the Executive Director for El Paso County Parks and Community Services. How are you doing today, Todd?
I'm doing great, Scott. Thank you.
Good, yeah. Thank you for inviting me out here today. I'm actually over at Todd's office, and it is gorgeous. You work in parks. Of course, you have a beautiful office with a park right outside. It's really nice. Kind of jealous, not going to lie. But before we get started today, I want to quickly add that if listeners are interested in more stories about people doing good in and around El Paso County, or hearing from county leadership about local government priorities and how they operate, you can find additional episodes of this podcast on your podcast platform of choice. But to get started today, Todd, I was wondering if you could share some background about yourself and how you ended up here at El Paso County.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I actually was born and raised in Colorado Springs and left for school and a couple of really cool jobs with the BLM and the National Park Service, but returned a little over 30 years ago and started back at the El Paso County Nature Centers. And so loved my job at the Bear Creek Nature Center and worked there and kind of worked my way up through the years and very blessed to now be the Executive Director for County Parks.
Talk to me a little bit about some of those jobs you had while you were away from Colorado Springs. What was it like working with BLM?
So very different. Federal agencies are have a whole different set of restrictions and regulations, but it was also a great learning opportunity for me to see how other agencies do it and how they manage property, how they manage recreation. And so it was a great opportunity for me to learn, but really my goal was always to return to the Pikes Peak region, and El Paso County opened that door for me.
That's awesome. So you said you've been with El Paso County for more than 30 years at this point?
30 years this year, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, first of all, congratulations. That's incredible.
Well, thank you.
What have you picked up in the last 30 years that have really helped you in this current role that you have?
You know, I'm really proud of what El Paso County has done over the decades and their commitment to being fiscally responsible, but also providing great resources to our residents. And the nature centers and the county parks and the county fair are just a great resource. And we operate, again, fiscally responsible. However, the resource or the programs that we do are outstanding.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit more about your specific role that you're in right now. What do you do on a regular basis, and how do you work for the residents here in the county?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I absolutely spend a lot of my time in meetings talking about new parks, future parks. This last week, I met with the Little League. I met with an environmental organization. I met with a bike organization. I met with several different other government agencies that manage land and property, and really try to work with them on seeing the future, not just this year, but going down into the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm. So El Paso County has a number of parks and open spaces. One of the great things about living in the Pikes Peak region is we get to benefit from this beautiful area that we live in. Can you tell me about some of those and how they vary from each other?
You bet. So El Paso County parks and open spaces have over 8,000 acres of property and 144 miles of trails. And those acres of property are breaking into a couple different categories. One of them is regional parks. And regional parks like Bear Creek, Fountain Creek, Fox Run, and Falcon Regional Park all are designed to serve the entire community, and they really are set up to have the widest variety of opportunities. So for Bear Creek Regional Park, for example, we've got pickleball, we've got a community garden, we've got an equestrian opportunity, we've got the nature center, we have natural areas, and so those regional parks are really designed to serve the widest audience of the entire Pikes Peak region. Then you get down into some of the other open spaces like pineries. That is a little more focused. There's going to be less development. It's going to be a little more preservation. But again, it's open to the public. We want to make sure that it's accessible. And then we started out in the 70s with some small region or neighborhood parks down south. And we still do maintain those and manage those. Very proud of those. One of those, Widefield Park, is a disc golf course, but also just as well loved in that community. And we also have out east the Paint Mines, which is a very unique park. It's an open space, but it is accessible to the public, and we'll continue to do that.
So I want to talk about the Paint Mines for a little bit because I live out east in the Falcon area, and when you look east, when you're out there, you see windmills and you see the plains, and that's about all you see. But when you're driving out to Calhan, and all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, it's just the paint mines are there. Yeah. It's one of the more incredible things I've seen is how this natural rock formation area is just in the middle of these plains. Talk to me a little bit more about the paint mines and like what they are and how guests can interact with that area.
You bet. Yeah. I started out leading hikes in there, and every time you walk through the prairie and you drop into that canyon with the rock hoodoos, it's just a dramatic experience. Right now we're doing a master plan for the paint mines because during COVID we realized they love our parks, and the paint mines was one of them that people could get out, get away, get separated from others, but it also started to see that increase in use. And we realized this resource is sensitive. We want to keep it open, but we want to make sure we protect it. And so the paint mines right now is open every day, dawn to dusk, and encourage people to go out and enjoy it. What we do ask is you stay on the trails, and we are doing our part to make sure that they know where the trails are, because sometimes it's hard to see. So we're working on that with the master plan. We plan on investing some more time and money into the paint mines to protect it and preserve it for generations to come.
Yeah, no, that's great. Again, if people listening, you've never been out to the paint mines, it will catch you by surprise. A very pleasant surprise, in fact. So you mentioned earlier Fox Run Nature Center is one of the nature centers here in El Paso County. It would be the county's third nature center. Is that correct? And it's currently in development. So what should people know about it, and when can guests expect to be able to visit Fox Run?
Sure. So we are in the design phase right now. We hope to have that design finished by the end of the year, and then we will start looking at the capital campaign for the construction cost, and hopefully start construction in late 25 or 26. And a little bit about the why of Fox Run Nature Center. I think it's important for us to look back in time and why are we building it? And one of the things that we realized back in 2013 during the master plan, Parks Master Plan, was Fountain Creek and Bear Creek Nature Centers were well loved and definitely served the community. However, there was a shortcoming in that they have capacity and we didn't have anything up north. And so the community identified a need back in 2013 for another nature center in northern El Paso County.
Yeah, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that idea of need and how need is determined, because, there are other things that the county provides. Think of like roads, right? Like it's really easy to kind of understand, a road, it gets me from point A to point B. I can see it. Like the need is there. I understand. Even something like a fire station, right? Like, while the county doesn't necessarily provide fire stations, those fire stations, you can see them, emergency services. Okay. It all makes sense in my head. How is a nature center something that can be considered a need, and how do you identify those?
Sure. That's a great question. And I think you look at the mission of what the nature centers are trying to accomplish. What nature centers staff and volunteers do is connect our public and inspire them to become stewards for the outdoors. And so if you just put a building, it's kind of like a school. A school is worthless without the students and the teachers. The Nature Center is a building. It's going to be great. It's going to have exhibits. It'll teach you. But the people that are going to be there are going to do the programs and the classes. And one thing I've learned over my 30 years at the Nature Centers, the impact that those programs have on the visitors and residents to El Paso County is significant. I grew up here. I always knew that the outdoors were somewhere I spent a great deal of time in, and I thought everybody in the Pikes Peak region did that. I learned through the Nature Center and the field trips and the programs is that's not accurate. There's a lot of people here that just aren't comfortable getting in the outdoors, and they don't know what it's like. Mm-hmm. And the nature centers have always been kind of that window, that pathway, that hallway into the outdoors. It's somewhere where they can come, they do a program, they're comfortable, they build that level of comfort, and then they are able to go out and do things on their own, which is exactly what we need in our parks and in our environment. People that go outdoors, that they understand it, they appreciate it, and then they're going to take better care of it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that I have noticed ever since I started working with El Paso County just a couple of years ago is how accessible the Parks Department is helping make the outdoors for everybody. Can you talk a little bit about the idea behind that and the steps that you guys are taking to make that happen?
Yeah, very proud of the steps and the progress we've made over the last couple of years. Really, I challenged our department to not just look about how do we make it accessible, but how do we make it inviting? Mm-hmm. And so a couple of the initiatives we've done, one of them is for people with disabilities. We've got the train hopper. That goes above and beyond just making the trails accessible. It makes everything accessible in our parks. We've also done the VIP trail for visually impaired persons. We knew that the deaf and blind school and groups were coming and using the parks, but how do we make it more inviting? Mm-hmm. Not just accessible, but inviting. And I think the Fox Run Nature Center is going to be the flagship for that. We really are. From day one, that has been our focus, is how do we make it accessible to all and inviting to everyone? And one of our park advisory board members has shared with us and talked to some of the public about is that he is so excited about being able to see the forest from a perspective that he would never be able to do because he's in a wheelchair. Yeah. And so we're looking forward to that. And we just did a Universal Accessibility Day out at Fox Run, and we know our limitations and we know our opportunities, and we're going to continue to try to expand, making them more accessible.
Yeah, and one of the really interesting things about that is, at least to me, the stories behind how those opportunities came to be. Would you mind talking a little bit about that for the train hoppers and for the VIP trail? I think those stories are really fascinating and not only highlight, I guess, the adaptability of the Parks Department to, help make those things happen, but also how much care goes into the thought process behind it.
Yeah. A couple things come to mind. One is how did we get to where we were with the train hopper? It was truly a community effort. There was a group from the Independent Center. They were interested in it. We've had a couple individuals that talked to us about it. We worked with our facilities department and made this. They work with the accessibility side of the county, and we joined together through funding, through nonprofits, through the county. We ended up purchasing the first train hopper, and that was great. I think we saw it. My staff was very excited to get out and do it, and the one story that's really stuck in my mind of why we did this and why we will continue to do it was a couple, an elderly couple. They lived in Fountain area. They walked there every day around the Fountain Creek Nature Center trails, and that was just their thing that they did. Well, she got to the point where she wasn't able to do that anymore, and so he would go on the walk and bring his phone and FaceTime her and show her what the things were that they normally would be seeing together. With the train hopper, they got to do that together again, which that is just one of many of those powerful stories of what the train hopper to us was a vehicle. It was great that we were doing, but the real impact was the impact to the people that were getting to go out in the trails.
Yeah. So that's incredible. I actually had never heard that story before. That's really awesome. One of the things you also mentioned when you were talking about the nature centers are the different classes and programs that are available. I have children who love to take advantage of these classes and programs. Fortunately, I work for the county, so I'm aware of some of those. But can you talk a little bit more about what those programs are and the classes and what they provide people who might be looking for them?
Sure. So a variety of things that you can do at the nature centers, starting out with the schools and the field trips. There's very likely, if you talk to one of your neighbors in your neighborhood, they have either children that have gone to the nature center or they know somebody that did go to field trips. So we serve the entire Pikes Peak region, and those kids then come back with their families often. And the nature centers are both free. And so you can come back and look around on your own time, and it's kind of neat to watch the kids that came on a field trip come and kind of give their parents a field trip. Then there's the continuing education side of things. And so I've been, again, with the county for long enough to see this generational change. And we have parents that grew up knowing about the nature center. They then bring their children there, and their children are now getting raised, and they are having children of their own, which has really been a neat process to see. We have done 3s and 4s and 2s and 3 programs for years. And so I remember when they first said that, I thought, how are we going to do a program for a 2-year-old? But you know what? It was for the 2-year-old and the caregiver, and it really built that comfort level that I mentioned. Then they can come back again in the summer for our nature camps, which is, again, a week opportunity during a day camp for those children to build that comfort zone, comfort level a little bit more. And then we've had some that have gone through our nature camps. Then they join us later on as a junior camp counselor, and then they can also, we've actually hired them as seasonals in a couple of cases. And so that level of comfort just continues to grow, and that's what we're doing. We're not going to make the difference in one visit, but those multiple times, that's where it happens.
Yeah, that's really cool. So the interesting thing about parks and community services is I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, the parks guy, talk about parks. But there's actually a lot more to your job than just the parks and the nature centers. You're also over environmental services and the El Paso County Fair. So how do those duties differ, and what should residents know about each of those?
Sure. So yeah, very proud of our environmental services division. They do some outstanding work. They're located off of acres, and they're the opportunity for you to recycle things that are hard to recycle, like paint and some of the toxic things that you might have in your home. There's a way to safely recycle them and to dispose of them. And so if you haven't already, I would encourage you to take a look at our website. It really has a detailed description of what they will take. And then we also do a lot of special events there where they take the mattresses and the large format TVs, which is, as I've learned, is very expensive to take care of. And this is an opportunity for our residents to bring it down there for free and to recycle them and dispose of them properly.
And an important note about that is, and you please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, to do that, it's important that they make a reservation to go to the center and do that recycling.
You know, we did reservations up until this year, so we dropped the reservation.
I'm out of the loop.
No, that was a reaction to community concern. So during COVID, we realized we needed to structure this a little bit more, so we had reservations. But over the last couple of years, we did have a lot of residents say, you know, we would like to just be able to come out there. And so there are certain days that you need to come. There's still certain times, but you can come out on your own now and recycle those items.
I see. Look at that. You're educating me as well. This is so great. So what about the El Paso County Fair? So we had one just this past summer. I went. I always go with my family. It's an incredible time. Really great to get out there to Calhan. But talk about the fair from your perspective and how you help manage that and what the fair means to the county.
Sure. Yeah, the El Paso County Fair has been going for over 100 years and really has a rich tradition of that agricultural and community connection. We are very proud of our El Paso County Fair, and that is also financially sustainable. So we generate enough money during those 8 days of the county fair to pay for all those components and all the activities outside of that happen at the Fair and Event Center. The county fair has some staff members, but really relies on volunteers. And so through 4-H, through all the different groups that come out there are, 8-day fair with hundreds and hundreds of activities, and it serves well over 30,000 visitors every year.
So you're in a unique position where you've been able to see the evolution of the El Paso County Fair over the course of, I'll just say sometime, What have you seen in those changes from, when maybe you had first gone to the El Paso County Fair to what it looks like today?
Yeah, I think we've come leaps and bounds over the last 10 years. We've recognized that the agricultural community is not always visible to the bigger urban area of Colorado Springs, and I think that connection is really an important connection that we make. And so the 4-H and the programs that they have there is the way they do it with those families, but the county fair is a way for people that live in the city that might not know what that tie is and the value of what we get from our agricultural community. It's bringing them in addition to just being a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The community event is bringing people together. There's a series of concerts. There's Demolition Derby. I think we've really done a great job of reaching out to, again, a broader audience. Mm-hmm. One of the things that they did this year I'm very proud of, and it was one of those things that I challenged them to reach out to new audiences. They did a sensory awareness day where people that had those sensitivities to loud noises, you wouldn't think they would go to the county fair,
right,
and they often didn't. But with this new day that they provided this year, a lot of people that have never been to the county fair were able to go out and enjoy it.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of people about Sensory Day before the fair started, and just the concept of again, it's this pattern of the Parks Department and El Paso County as a whole of really doing what they can to be a place where people, maybe they do have disabilities, maybe they do have sensitivities, but we're doing what we can to help make things available to them as well. And honestly, anywhere you can get a funnel cake can't be a bad place. So
that's right.
Go out to the El Paso County Fair when it happens. So we've been able to actually cover a lot of ground here today, but I was just wondering if there's anything else you'd like to add that you think would be important for listeners to know.
I think that with the new development for the Fox Run Nature Center, I would like to just bring that back to everybody's forethought is that this really is something that's going to impact our entire community. And the Nature Center itself is going to be a great facility. It's going to be a neat building. But what they do there is what's important, and that's create stewards for our environment and for our parks. And so the Fox Run Nature Center will open that up to a whole new audience in northern El Paso County and also serve the greater Pikes Peak region.
Very good. Well, thank you, Todd. I appreciate you taking the time today and for all the work that you do here for El Paso County. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Scott.
If you are interested in listening to additional episodes of Beyond the Dais, be sure to look for us on Podbean or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.